Hello and welcome to the 84th episode of Growing Up Geek, the weekly podcast for geek entertainment and nostalgia. My name is Brad and I am joined by a man who wants nothing to do with mannequins, my brother Rob.
Me llamo Rob.
Yes.
Yes.
How's it going?
It's going well. Now, what's this I hear about mannequins? Because keep that away from me.
Yeah, as part of my job now, I am dressing and undressing mannequins.
Wow.
Daily.
Didn't you start off doing flag design or something?
Yeah, it's a company that handles a lot of things, obviously, but I'm in a photo booth manhandling this 6-foot-tall mannequin,
Yes.
and people constantly it's a high traffic area, so people constantly walk by, and I get faces all day long, because I'll literally have him, like, splayed out on the floor with, like, I'm pulling his pants on, and he has, like, no specific area, but he has, like, a bump, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just freaky enough to get people to go whenever they walk by, and I just get that a million times a day.
Immediately, phobia of mannequins on my end, because remember how our grandmother used to have a basement full of mannequins
Yes.
behind this curtain?
Yeah, it's funny you mention that, because I just saw her, and she said that she had a yard sale, and that was the only thing that didn't sell. It was those mannequins.
They're
Oh,
terrible.
and her clown pictures, which
Yeah.
were the two creepiest things in her house. So I was like, well, it's no wonder that those two things didn't sell.
What, you don't want to be sleeping with clowns staring down upon you?
They were so realistic, too. I was like...
Right. These
they
aren't
were
like cartoon clowns. These are like, Van Gogh paintings of like
or John Wayne
crying.
Gacy paintings. One of those killers actually painted clowns. I can't remember.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
And
gosh.
it's
So,
like Emmett
well-
Kelly and like not like happy cartoon. Like it was just
No.
like the hobo and things
It's
like
a
that.
crying hobo. It's so barely a clown.
But
you know?
she figured, all right, I'll put this up in the kids' room and it'll help them
Yeah.
sleep. It does not help anybody sleep.
Nope.
And-
Sweet
and-
dreams. Yeah.
Yeah, every basement also has that kind of, area that you don't really go to, but when you do, normally it's just like boxes and crates and stuff. This literally, you'd
Yep.
peer behind there, and there would be mannequin figures just standing there staring at you.
Yeah, and she said her guests never knew that they were there. So you would just sort of round the corner and be like, hey, there's a guy in the room, But, geez. Well, let's move on to some geek news, shall we?
Let's.
This week, what was your favorite news story?
Favorite news story just popped out at me. Turns out, good news for everybody listening to the show.
Yeah. What is listening?
Huxley is still alive.
Oh my gosh.
Still going on and is actually in beta.
Yes. You know what? I saw this and I was like, I wonder if Rob's going to talk about that. So proceed.
Proceeding. Yeah, actually, if you have a File Planet subscription in America, you are now eligible to join the open beta for Huxley on your computer.
Yeah, I looked at a YouTube video of this, and it was almost like a sad, like, letdown, because it's a real game,
Yeah.
It was almost better when it was, like, this fantasy that we joked about forever, but it's a real game, and it's fairly standard looking to me. At the time, I think it was, like, screenshots, like, 4 years ago, they looked unbelievable, and now they just sort of compete.
Right.
But it's an MMO shooter, which is still kind of an original concept, semi-original.
Yeah, it looks cool, but in the end, it's more or less you're like, oh, it's like people playing Unreal,
Yeah.
It doesn't feel that fresh right now. But yeah, if you're interested, there's now a lot of videos up that you can watch of people playing it. They go through character creation, things like that. You get to more or less
And the characters
feel of
do
it.
look very good.
Yeah, it looks good. The thing I'm also, wondering is, with this being a PC beta, obviously the quality is going to vary from video to video. So
Right.
it's not to say, okay, well, what is it going to look like on like the 360? And I think for you and I, that's the big appeal about this game, is that
Right.
it may be like the first real console MMO RPG FPS, whatever, but like to hit consoles and to work on consoles, because as is,
know.
like Final Fantasy 11 and stuff like that are really terrible.
Oh, that's a hideous port.
Yeah.
But you know what? The article I read said that the 360 version is still like a question mark, kind of.
Ugh.
The PC is sort of all there is right now, and
Yeah.
the console versions might be scrapped. In fact, let's just say it's most likely that they will be, because this game, any MMO just gets trounced.
Right.
But I had a question for you.
Sure.
Because I was watching this video, and it occurred to me, like, is there a difference between an MMO shooter and just, like, Call of Duty multiplayer?
No. I mean...
I was suddenly like, oh, so that's what it is. It's people playing a shooter together. Well, we already do that. Like, it was like the curtain was pulled back, and I was like, no.
Yeah, I guess in the end, I mean, are you really going to get your money's worth if there's a monthly subscription versus something like Call of Duty? Especially, I mean, because... Modern Warfare introduced all that sort of leveling up stuff and things, on the front end. It's like, is that necessary to have going on? Now, to me, the appeal is the kind of social aspect, the really kind of building your character and configuring it and having a persistent world where battles mean something,
It's persistent, yeah. But is there any point to persistence in a shooter? Like, aren't you just in, like... Okay.
Well, I would say, sorry, I mean, look at a game like Warhammer, where, you're pushing and pushing and pushing to destroy the enemy's capital. It's structured in such a way that each war actually has a result further down the line, and like days and days later you jump on it, and the whole thing has changed because of what's been going on online.
Right.
And so that's kind of, if Huxley had that going on, like, you really are fighting a war, and you have to get in there, and you have to fight, and you're pushing that front line forward, and you feel more accomplished than, like, oh, well, next round, it'll be more intense, I think.
Yeah, have you played Battlefield 1943 at all? The Xbox beta, or the demo, I mean?
No, that's the one that kind of looks like Team Fortress-y.
No, it's an online World War II like simulation. It's Battlefield.
Battlefield 1942, yeah.
Yeah, well, this is 43, and it's like a smaller, more console-based version.
Yeah. Doesn't it have like a cartoony look or something?
I think you're thinking of like Battlefield Heroes.
That's what I'm
like
thinking of. Yeah, you're right.
But anyway, no, you got to try this 1943, because even the demo, it gives you like an hour or something of time to play. But it's super addictive, like being able to jump in an airplane or a tank or whatever and beat the Japanese, or be like a samurai warrior or whatever.
There were samurai warriors in World War II in 1943?
No, I'm totally crapping at this description. It's a guy with a sword who fights for the Japanese. I think samurai's a little pushing it. But anyway, yeah, it's really fun. I would definitely encourage you to check it out.
Cool.
When there's like a million people playing an online war, it actually gets the feeling of war, going pretty well, so...
Sweet.
Somehow I took over your news story.
Nah,
with
that's okay. I mean, there wasn't much more to say than that, and that there's videos up, and yeah, the impressions so far are kind of, well, it is a real game, and now it's kind of like lacking.
Yeah, we're almost more excited when things get canceled
than
we are when they exist. You know what I mean? If Duke Nukem Forever came out, we'd be like, oh. But if it's canceled, everyone's like, no.
Yeah, or like how Rise of the Robots will always be this incredible game that we never got to play.
Yeah, it can only be incredible because we never played it.
Exactly. Jaguar is by far the best video game system that ever existed, because I never got a chance to play with one, and I knew that it was 64-bit.
Exactly.
It had a bazillion buttons on it.
All right, well, that takes me to my news story.
Yes.
Which this week is going to be also video game related. I was intrigued by the Fallout 3 downloadable content that came out. It's the last, according to the developers, the last planned one.
Yes, allegedly.
It's alleged, and it's Mothership Zeta, which is, there's a crashed UFO in the world of Fallout, and then you get beamed up into this mothership, and you can look down on the sort of wrecked Earth that exists in Fallout. And I really don't need to talk that much about the downloadable content. I want to just praise Bethesda for a minute here, if I could, just geek out a little bit on them, because they've done such a good job with this downloadable content. And if you look at like each release, you had the Operation Anchorage, which was like this, cold blue Alaskan simulation of a battle with the Chinese, and then you had like the burned out wreckage of Pittsburgh in the pit, and then you had Point Lookout, with the sort of bayou, like southern plantation that's like haunted.
Yeah.
Totally different from each other. And now Mothership Zeta, which is like this spaceship one, and I just applaud their creativity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like it's really not that they're throwing in like, okay, well, here's a new guy you can talk to, generated by our procedural face engine. Mm-hmm. It's actually a unique artist-created world to present a new experience and tell more of the Fallout story.
Yeah. I just love it. And I hooked up my PS2 this week, and I've just been sort of going back through my back catalog of like PlayStation and PS2 games. And one thing I realized is like there was a lot more diversity in like the types of games. You know, we're sort of in a rut now with like grizzled hero. In fact, somebody put a screenshot up online or like a collage of all of the new heroes, like the male protagonists in all these games. And honest to God, it was almost like it was depressing because they all look like similar. They all have like shaved heads. Seriously, like there's like 13 games now with dudes with shaved heads. Yeah. You know, like Infamous and all that stuff. It just made me sad because I'm like, there's just not that much, push to do these creative, new settings, new feelings, like a lot of people said with Flower that they felt like beauty, and that's something that you never feel in a video game anymore. It's always like kill him, and that's like the only emotion ever expressed is like rage or anger or something or beatitude. But there's a ton of things you could do. I want to applaud Bethesda because they actually went and made 4 very unique, or actually 5. I didn't count Brotherhood of Steel, but all of these are just so diverse, and even if they're not the greatest ever, I just think they're really creative. So
good job there. Yeah, I mean it's worth mentioning. Like I remember, maybe your PS2 memories are more fonder because back then, like Mace Griffin Bounty Hunter came out. I didn't care in the least. I was just like, "What? Who cares?" And like you'd watch the videos, and they'd be like, "Yeah, he's really different because he's like a balls out, no holds barred, just doesn't care and will kill a guy." I'm like, "No, that is every hero." Where are the guys that like cry and whimper whenever there's a shot? Like like
the Owen Wilsons.
Exactly. Where are the Owen Wilsons of games? And stuff like that.
Well, I think I'm thinking more of the PlayStation 1 era because you had like no real genres established hardcore in 3D, and so like literally Tomb Raider, survival horror with Resident Evil, Twisted Metal, vehicular combat. It goes on and on. There's all these like brand new type of genres, and just not just that because I mean that's a particular time, but things like Parappa the Rapper and like the stuff that Psygnosis did and Polyphony Digital and like Sony just went after a lot of weird, cool companies, and they're still doing it on the PS3 with their indie games. I think really indie games are where this is happening a lot more now for the sort of original like oddball idea.
Yeah, and I think like with things like Natal coming out, Peter Molyneux, just the crazed, designer of like Fable and stuff.
Right.
He's always pushing, and he said to developers like about Natal, don't ask yourself, well, how can I get an old genre to work with it?
Totally.
What you should first ask is, what do you want the player to feel, and then build upon that.
Right.
Now he's crazy, so who knows? But
but he's awesome to watch. Excuse me. He's so fun to watch. And obviously, this Fallout DLC is nothing like groundbreaking. But again, you can tell that they're not doing the safe thing. They're doing with each one. I mean, especially the southern one, the bayou, the plantation. I just think that's such a cool setting. And one that you don't always get, especially in the world of Fallout 3. You wouldn't expect, I'm going to be treated to this sort of, southern ghost world, but kudos to Bethesda.
Good job.
Good job. All right, and so with that, let's move on now to our main topic, which this week is all about Monkey Island. If you know LucasArts, the George Lucas video game company, long before they made Star Wars games out the wazoo, they made a ton of really good point-and-click adventure games, some of the best. And probably one of the most famous of those is Secret of Monkey Island. And this week we're talking about 2 flavors of that game. One is a sequel, which you played on the Wii.
Yep.
It's called Tales of Monkey Island. That's a brand new game made by Telltale. And then I played a remake of the original for Xbox. And that's also available on the iPhone, which is kind of cool. So LucasArts bringing back this old game, enhancing it, remaking it, sequelizing it. What did you think of the Wii version?
Yeah, the first episode, the launch of the Screaming Narwhal.
Yes.
a fun name, and the first episode was like $10, but it was fun to just jump in there. And the first thing is, finally, adventure game, like point and click, and on a console that works so well for it. The Wii has point and click. It's not a mouse, but it's actually literally, okay, I'll point at this thing. It really adds to that exploration. You're running the cursor over the screen looking for something. You're like, I wonder what around here is of interest. And that was just so cool. And to see, storytelling return and just character. I mean, we were just talking about how we're sick of just these bloated chunk heads as our protagonists.
Right.
And then we have this protagonist who is this funny, kind of wisecracking, scrawny guy who's not really smart, but he gets by and he does his thing. So.
And his name is Guybrush Threepwood.
Yeah.
To tell you the direction of this game. It's a very witty and funny game.
Yeah, rather than Bold Logan.
Yeah. No, I mean, and it's a style that you don't see a lot, like you said, just the witty kind of game.
Really fun initial reaction. A great way of introducing the characters by sort of, when you start it off, it's like you're at the end of a previous big adventure. Like you don't even get to know what's going on there. But you can see almost like jokes being, it's sort of like this, welcome back. While you were away, we've been up to things.
Yeah,
but
he's up against a pirate named LeChuck, who is a ghost pirate. It's a pirate, game. I should have said that a long time ago. But there's a girl to save.
Yep.
Fortune teller.
I mean, obviously, if you play the game, you'll find out more about these characters. But needless to say, they're very fun, well acted, lots of good dialogue. If you interact with them multiple times, the dialogue will change up to keep things kind of fresh.
Yeah, what did you think about that? Like, does it have dialogue trees, basically? You just select the funniest thing to say to a character?
Yeah, and they kind of went to the Under a Killing Moon school of dialogue tree selection, which is where what it says isn't necessarily how the character is going to say it.
Oh, that's cool.
You select something, and then what he says is maybe a little worse, or maybe a little offhanded or something like that. I will say, kind of to the discredit, was that sometimes I felt like no matter what I selected, he was going to say the same thing.
Oh,
so
okay.
Maybe due to the Wii's limited memory capacity or something like that, they skimmed back. But there were a few instances where like I was kind of snickering to myself as I selected something, and then what he said was just so general. I really didn't feel like it was getting a reaction that I wanted. It kind of fell flat there.
Yeah. Now, one thing these games are known for is their puzzles. I mean, trying to figure things out is a big part of adventure games.
Mm-hmm.
How did you find the puzzles in terms of difficulty?
Well, you know what? The ones they started off with, to somebody who's new to adventure games, might actually be sort of difficult. I didn't have a problem sometimes figuring things out. Is
there a lot of combine this with this? Because I mean, that was classic.
Combination is one of the first things they teach you. That you drag something into one side, drag something to the other side, hit the combine button. If they won't work, they'll just go ting. But if they do, they'll go together, they'll glow, and now you have a thing. And so that's always, there's experimentation. You want to throw things together, click on a thing, see how it works. But, I've gotten so far with some puzzles where it was really easy to figure things out. I felt very clever. And then there's some where I'm like, I'm looking at it, I know this should work, and for some reason it's not.
But so I have a question. How does it look on the Wii? Because I imagine you're downloading this, but like the Wii doesn't really have a lot of storage. Is it really compressed or like?
No, it looks like a Wii game.
Yeah.
It's good. It's not fantastic graphics.
But they are 3D characters and
3D characters in a 3D world.
But like the music and dialogue is all there. It's not
exactly. There's no like.
Yeah.
It's actual dialogue and everything like that. I mean, obviously, they say to you, this is this certain size. Do you have enough size on your Wii? Okay, yeah, it works.
Yeah.
So in the end, you get a good thing. Now, here's a weird thing, though. It's stored on the Wii's internal memory, which is, it's not a hard drive or anything.
Right.
But there's still load times in the game, which I gotta say turned me off. Like, why am I sitting here, like, watching a screen for maybe 3 or 4 seconds with like this loading icon, and I don't get it. Like I'm like, why is this?
Not since Quake on the N64.
Exactly. Like, isn't this supposed to be only if you have a CD in the system? Like,
yeah. Well, that's what Nintendo always claimed back in the day. Is like no loading, but they did have load times.
Yeah.
It just,
on Quake it was called building.
Yeah, we're building.
Right.
Well, so is there anything else you have to say about the Tales of Monkey Island, the first episode?
Well, I guess I'll wrap it up by saying that I am enjoying it. I do recommend checking it out if you can. There should be, I think, a demo on the PC.
There is a demo. I couldn't run it, which is pretty funny considering you're playing it on the Wii.
Yeah, this may actually be worth getting a season pass. The $10 for the Wii version didn't seem at all too steep. And you know what? For one episode, it actually seems very rich. Like I was half expecting a sort of shareware feeling of like the first episode of Doom, where you're just like,
right? No,
I really didn't get what I wanted out of this. But it really feels like an episode with a beginning, middle, and end.
Sweet.
And so yeah, I'm enjoying it. I do think they need to switch up the faces. There's 3 characters in this game that you can tell are the same model, but with like palette swapping or like maybe like a beard added or something. Yeah, and it's kind of like
with plus beard.
It's like, all right, way to have like no art direction.
Well, I do feel that way sometimes about Telltale. It's like, God bless them for bringing back adventure games, but they're very simple models.
Yeah.
Like Sam and Max it's almost like that. To get really dorky, Jurod shaded, where it's just like no textures.
And I really think, if there's enough interest in these, maybe eventually we'll have like a really lush world with different character faces. And one thing that they're really getting close to doing well, I will admit, is the expressivity of the characters, where their faces can tell a lot without them having to say it. And that is a big, important part of these games, I think.
There you go. Expressivity, your word for the day.
Yes.
So I will discuss the Secret of Monkey Island Special Edition, which I played on the 360. And that is, like I said, redrawn HD version of the Secret of Monkey Island. It was a 2-dimensional adventure game. It had sort of a verb table that would reside at the bottom of the screen, and it would say, push, pull, open, grab, get, all those different things. And that took up like the whole lower half of the screen. And now, instead of having that, you can still do all those things, but it's from either a pull-up menu or it's mapped to the D-pad on the 360 or whatever system you're playing it. And so you can hit like up for grab, left for move, those kind of things.
Cool.
So I actually found that to be kind of complicated, even though they did a better job of like hiding it. You do get the full HD screen, which is, the graphics in this game are really beautiful. I mean, if you're a fan of the original, it's going to be so cool to see this. But the verb system, it's a little complex. Like I'm assuming the Tales of Monkey Island is a lot more simple in terms of things, because this actually has like, move this or grab this or push this. You have to choose the right one exactly.
Yeah, there's nothing like that. It's actually very much automatic. You click at something and it'll just do whatever the action is.
And it makes it go. I think that's the modern version, because it definitely feels a little bit old-fashioned that way. But, like you said, a piratey adventure, just giddy feelings of, saying something clever to these pirates and sort of kicking back and watching it. And if I had to say a downside, I'd basically be that I pretty much just watched this game. I used the hint system heavily because, dang, the puzzles in this original game are hard. They have this thing where you have to combine a flower that you find in this random forest with this piece of meat to make like a poisonous or a sleep potion that you then feed to these piranha dogs. And like, piranha dogs are funny,
Yeah.
So I enjoy the wit of the game, and it's really cool for that. But to actually figure out what you do, it's hard as heck. But the cool thing is you just press X to pull up the hint system, and it's 3 levels. 1 is just, maybe you should do this. And then 2 is a little more explicit. And then 3 is just a giant arrow that points at what you need to do. So that makes it a lot easier, but I ended up pretty much using that the whole time. So
it sounds like between the two, maybe the more recent is probably the better, easier recommendation.
Yeah, I think they've learned a lot since these old games, and even though this is an amazing tribute to an original game, I think that what Telltale is doing with adventure gaming, they're pushing it ahead, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I had a conversation with a guy. He was buying a bunch of adventure games, kind of that were being sold by the Adventure Company, things like that, companies that are still sort of around that specialize in it. And one thing that sort of, doesn't exist in the market these days is sort of puzzles that are made to baffle and really just, take days to solve. I remember one of the first all-nighters you and I pulled was Myst. Because that wasn't an instant gratification game. It was, all right, I push this button and nothing seems to happen. And then it's like you have to explore it and you're like, oh, wait, this, thing rose up and now I have to go in there, like that's a mile away. So I think adventure games, they used to be fun because of sort of their openness. They used to be text-based. You'd have to type run to thing, and it'd be like, you cannot run to thing.
Well, yeah, and you got to have serious time to play that one. But, I proudly say that Myst is my favorite game, but it also happened at a time in my life when I had a lot of time. Mm-hmm. And I think if you don't have unlimited time to goof around, a game like Secret of Monkey Island is going to be really hard to justify because, well, the hint system makes it easy, but to try to figure those things out, I mean, you just bang your head against the wall sometimes. Like, combine meat with bird or, combine chicken with pinwheel or whatever. I actually dreamed the solution to a Myst clue.
Yeah.
Or to a Myst puzzle back in the day, and it was so cool. I woke up and I'm like, wow, let's try it, and it worked. It was so cool. But, yeah, I don't have time for that anymore, so something like the Tales of Monkey Island would probably be more my speed.
Right, so, okay, old Monkey Island is for hardcore gamers, new Monkey Island for the get relaxed. Go get it depending on whoever you are, because get away from Bold Logan and Mace Griffin.
Yeah, I feel like that's sort of the message of this show, but yeah, pirates, dude. I mean, it's a setting that you just don't get to have much.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I'm up for that. I felt good feelings in my chest while I was being piratey with people.
Right, and none of this Johnny Depp bull crap. We're talking about swashbuckling fun lovers.
Oh yeah, it's a totally different thing than that. It's just very ho-ho. It's it's awesome.
And along that same vein, maybe check out Sid Meier's Pirates.
Yeah,
that game is very addictive and very fun.
Yeah,
it's a little shout out there, but
awesome.
Worth checking out.
Yeah, so that is our Monkey Island thoughts. And before we close out our show, we always like to get a little nostalgic and reminisce about growing up geek. And this week, you said you had a game of some kind.
Yeah, some things came up in my mind recently that I realized, we don't call things what we used to.
Right.
Past a certain period, past like 98 or something into the new millennium, we standardized the terms that we had for things in technology that we have today.
Right.
So I want to see if I can pick your brain.
Yes.
And you can figure out what the old term was for something, okay?
Okay.
I'll give you an example. For today, we might talk about a VGA port on a computer. It used to be SVGA.
I don't even think we talk about a VGA port today.
I know.
That's gone.
Or VESA.
Right.
What driver are you using? Oh, it's SVGA, VESA, VGA.
Right, yeah. Yeah, varied.
Anyways, all right. What did we used to call a game that was rated E for everyone?
Well, God, there was no rating system at the very beginning. PC-13?
Uh-huh.
No.
There's PC-13, but let's say whenever they actually started to rate it, what was...
Well, the Genesis had like GA for general audience, didn't it?
Mm-hmm. Or
Sega had their own rating system before the ESRB.
Yeah, and then there was also K through A.
Oh yeah, you're right.
That was actually, I think, whenever the ratings board first started. That was their early stuff.
Oh, okay, cool.
Now let's see if you can get this one. What used to be the common term for anime?
Oh, I want to say Japanimation.
Yes.
It's true, because there was totally a time when the average American had no clue what anime was. It's such a common thing now, but Saturday anime on Sci-Fi, dude, that was where you had to get your fix.
I know, because before it's like, what does that mean? But animation from Japan, let's call it Japanimation, sure.
There's actually a store that I sometimes go to that is called Joy's Japanimation, and they have mostly anime and manga.
Cool. Now here's the big one for the ender, and there might be two answers for this.
Okay.
But what used to be the phrase, rather, that we called the internet?
Oh, yes. The information superhighway?
The information superhighway.
Yeah. That was like the slang term. Like, anytime there's new technology, like, people start really slanging it up.
Yes.
The same crap is happening with the cloud. You know what I mean?
That is exactly what got me thinking about this.
Okay, yeah. Everyone's saying the cloud, but it's like, do you have to have a buzzword? Like, so many articles about OnLive began with, well, it's in a cloud, and I'm like, just shut up. It's on the internet, you know? Like, it's not in a cloud, you know?
Right. And I hate that phrase because it mystifies computers.
Yeah, it does.
You know? I see elderly people come into where I work, and they're perfectly comfortable with that phrase. Oh yeah, cloud computing. It'll be up in the cloud. CNN said so.
Weird.
But I'm like, no, it's not in a cloud.
Yeah.
It's being passed along a RAID array at a server farm in Nebraska.
Whatever it is, and it's existing too. I mean, it's like we have the internet
it's
now.
It's a tangible material thing. It's not. Well, the cloud doesn't like me. Why doesn't it? Like I get people who are like, my computer hates me, and they're like, no, your computer doesn't hate you. Your computer's ones and zeros are sort of scrambled, and you have to just unscramble.
Although, dude, I have to call you out because there was many a time when I heard you utter the phrase, why do you hate me? But whenever you were younger, we at times you'd come home for summer break and you'd bring your computer and you'd be in my office just messing around, and your computer for whatever reason had the most jacked issues. But I remember you would sit there and you would just be like, okay, just do that, do exactly that. It was literally like Office Space,
right? And
you were like, oh, that's what I want you to do. That's what I wanted. Yeah, stuff like that, like talking to it.
I admit, I don't lose my patience very much with people or places or things, but with technology, I just have a short fuse.
You should see what people I work with do. I'll occasionally just over a cubicle wall, I'll just hear like, nah, don't. Or something like that. It's awesome. And then I like peek out and I'm like, is it responding? I love it. It must be just a trend. You have to talk to your computer. I
think on my end, though, it all comes back to, I know that it's something I'm not solving. You know?
But you're talking about buzzwords, and I mean, there's a lot of those that just aren't around. I feel like social networking also had its share of slang terms that have also kind of... viral. It's like once the old people get a hold of it, the young people don't want to say it anymore, And I literally hear like executives saying viral. It's going viral. We're going viral. And it's like, I'm sure right now there's hackers stabbing themselves,
Mm-hmm. And quickly making new words.
And making new words, yeah. Well, good one. Thank you. That was a nice little fun trip.
Welcome. Perhaps one day we'll revisit this same game.
Yeah, I think it's worth it.
All right.
And so I think that's going to do it for this week. If you grew up geek like us and you have any topic ideas or any questions and you want it read on the show, send us an email. You can find us online at growing-up-geek.com. We got a little link on the side. You click it, sends an email to us. We read it. Bada boom, that's how the magic happens. And of course, you can follow Rob, as always, on Twitter at twitter.com/GUGRob. And once again, my name is Brad.
Edit autoexec.bat.
And we will catch you next week.